So, Javi, what's your purpose in life?
Hey guys, and welcome back to Third Act. Alright, so this week we're going to be talking about 3 Edinburg schools. We're going to go ahead and start with Edinburg North's 10 Ways to Survive the Zombie Apocalypse, Edinburg Economedes, The Insanity of Mary Girard, and last but definitely not least, we're going to be talking about Robert Vela's Little Shop of Horrors.
So, the first show we're going to be talking about today is going to be 10 Ways to Survive a Zombie Apocalypse from Edinburg North. So, what did you think of the show?
I think if we're going first impressions, the first thing I noticed was the car.
Yeah.
Like the full
Same.
life-size car that was on the set.
Yeah.
Which I thought was really cool.
Yeah. How do you get that on your stage?
I mean, they have like those like I always thought they had like those big doors, right? Like, don't the theaters have like the big doors?
I don't know.
I doubt they assembled it on stage, but but if you did, that's really cool. I mean,
congratulations.
Props to you guys. I think for me, what I liked about this show was the storytelling aspect of it.
Mm-hmm.
So it is a different take on a normal play, because it's one of those plays that breaks the fourth wall. So you have 2 narrators that tell you how the show is going to go on. And it's kind of like, for those of you who weren't able to see it, like it's kind of like them giving you different scenarios and ways that you can survive the apocalypse. So like the whole play takes place during the apocalypse, but it's like different little scenarios. It's like, so this is how you can do this, and then it's like boom, and they play it out. And I thought that was pretty cool. Like it's kind of like, okay, this is one scene, this is another scene, and this is the third scene.
They used different actors for different scenarios. It wasn't always like the same group of people, which like at first caught me off guard. I was like, you're wearing the same costume. Who is that? But I got it later on that I mean, I can see how it can be overwhelming to do all 10 of them like back to back to back. So
yeah, and I think going on the costumes a little bit, they did a really excellent job. I don't know, I doubt that they were all wearing the same costume, like the same specific one.
Yeah,
but
but it was
it looked like they had just switched costumes.
Yeah,
like it looked very cohesive. So like you knew who was who.
Yeah.
In each scenario, which I thought was a really good nod to like the people who made that decision.
Yeah. One thing that I did notice about the show is that diction it got lost for me a little bit. There was just a few moments where the diction between the narrators was just lacking just a little bit for me, especially because they're the ones that spoke the most in the show, honestly. So
yeah, I think for me, diction also fell a little bit, like it faltered a little bit with the different scenarios. So there were certain scenarios where I heard every single word that came out of their mouth, and there were some scenarios where there was kind of like da-da-da, you know, like, and I was like, okay, wait, I didn't hear that, you know. But I think, again, like we've talked about multiple times, like I feel like that goes back to like nerves for the most part.
Yeah.
Because I feel like most of them did know how to deliver their lines, so I think like it could just be like, oh my god, I'm on stage now, I have to say all these lines, you know?
Yeah, because it was speeding up a little bit for me.
Yeah. I really would have loved to see more of a connection between the narrators.
Okay.
I think they were good in their own, like, individual parts, but I feel like since they were both narrating the story, it would have been cool to have a little bit more of, like, that, like, banter back and forth. Like, it was kind of, like, playing off of each other. I really wanted to see that more, because I feel like their energies were really great.
Yes.
So I feel like if they had just kind of, like, meshed just, like, a little bit more, I think it would have been, it would have been great.
Even the zombies, they give a lot of energy.
Oh,
for the moments that they were on stage.
Which is hilarious, because, like, literally you think zombie and you're like,
dead.
You know, but, no, yeah, I agree. I think energy overall was pretty great amongst the cast. All right, so moving along, we're going to go straight into our next show, which is Johnny Economedes, The Insanity of Mary Girard. So I guess I'll ask you, what stood out the most to you? Or, like, what was something in the play? Because you had never seen a version of this play. I've seen a version of this play done.
Not just that, but I've never been to an Economedes show.
That's true.
Yeah, that was the first time that I've been to that school, and I've seen one of their shows, which I was very surprised how deep into Edinburg Well, is it Edinburg? It's like the edge of.
I mean, it's the Edinburg School District.
And Elsa, like it's super far.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's not that far from where we live, but not to give a location away. Just kidding. But one of the first things that stood out for me was since it's a very ensemble heavy show, or they pulled it off as a very ensemble heavy show, there was a lot of moments where they were all saying the same line, right, and talking to her. But I got so lost because it was so many at the same time. I could have understood if they did like sections of people talking at a time, because I got lost like in a lot of the diction and a lot of the dialogue that they were saying. I got super lost. And since it was the first time I had seen the show, I was a little lost into what the show was about because of that. But the energy was there though. That's my thing, is that they had like 20 plus kids on stage. They were all giving they were all giving really good energy, but I think the energy was so high it overwhelmed the sound, and I could not understand what they were saying.
See, now, like, this one has a special place in my heart because it is one of the first plays that I ever saw done, and it was in a one act. But
one act season.
I literally, like, I had never seen the show done with that many people in the ensemble.
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm being honest, I feel like that really hindered it. Because I think, like, in other versions that I've seen, it's like 8, maybe 10 people that are in the ensemble. So it's easier to kind of stay on pace with each other, as opposed to having to stay on pace with like 20 plus people.
Yeah.
But I mean, some departments are bigger than others, so like I can understand wanting to have the involvement. And like you said, I agree the energy was there with the ensemble, but I feel like it clashed.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was like, yeah, like we're in it, because they were.
Yeah, they were.
So I think they just kind of needed to work a little bit more on their pacing as a group.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that there are certain ensemble members that are supposed to take leads in certain parts. And I think they did that pretty well.
Yeah, they did.
When they had to step out on their own and do that.
Yep. I noticed them right away, right? Because they had very similar costumes. Like all the ensemble had very similar costumes, but they would put those pieces that were different, they would stand out completely. The color that they used was white.
Mm-hmm.
And I can see how, as an ensemble, it can wash out people with the white, so I would have chosen something a little darker.
White.
But that's just me being super picky. Like
yeah, I think white is usually used because of, like the connotation of the story. So like obviously she's in a psych ward, so obviously like white, you think asylum, white, like things like that. So I get where that comes from. So I think because the whole point is for her to be the focal point, so she's obviously the only one not in that color. But I mean, I can see where you would want to pick maybe a different color. Maybe I would have picked like
a light gray.
I was thinking more like a cream color.
Oh,
but to look more like old, not old,
yes,
but because it doesn't take place in this time period, right?
Yeah, and that's what I thought. I was like, it's too white. It's too clean. But I loved how many people their department had.
Oh yeah.
Because I think it's so special to have that many people in your department. You have to use them wisely, and they definitely did. I like the fact that it was a big ensemble. I just wish that it was more separated, like the dialogue.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think the big ensemble hindered them in the sense of like you can't do that show with a big ensemble. Mm-hmm. It's just like the collaboration between everyone that was on stage. But I think one more thing that I do want to talk about before we move on is the set. So this was the first time that I had seen this show done with the set that elevates like that high. Mm-hmm. So for those of you for those of you who weren't able to see it, it was kind of like a cross, and in the center was like the focal point, and then they had stairs going up. If you can kind of picture levels. That. Yeah. It gives
really, really good levels.
Because they had so many people, it was such a great decision. Mm-hmm. Because you were able to give those levels with everyone. Like there was never a point where they were all standing like in a line or like all on the stairs in one line. Like they were like scattered. They were in groups. They were over here. And then what I did like is there was moments where the set, you were able to like run around each other on the stairs, and like this group would move over here, and then this group would move over here, and then but they would go this way and then they'd go around, like all like I thought that was really cool. Like it was able to kind of bring you into that. And she stayed at the center for most of the show, so I think that was pretty cool to see. And like these are the voices in her head, and they're like all like you know, like I thought that was a really cool aspect to the show. But lastly, I do want to talk about Mary Girard. Because I think having seen the show and knowing what I know about the show, the role is very demanding. Physically, mentally. Like the lines that you have to say are so long. She had so many monologues. So kudos to you, Celinda, for pulling that off. I know that they had multiple casts. But we were able to see the show with Celinda. So if you're watching, hello, we love you. But it was a really good portrayal of the role, in my opinion, having seen the show before. And I mean, she does basically have to carry the show, because it is about her character. Yeah. So I think it was an excellent choice to cast her in that role.
Alrighty, well, the last show we will be talking about in this video is going to be Little Shop of Horrors from Robert Vela High School. I know that there's going to be 3 separate ones in the season.
Yeah. I feel like there's always one show that like is super popular.
Yeah, and this is the show this year. Yeah. But I love the show. I've done it once. I've seen it multiple times. But this show has a very, very special place in my heart. My best friends were in it, and they killed it. And so I have a very high standard when it comes to the show. And okay, let me ask you, first impressions, what did you think?
Well, okay, at this point in the season, I had already seen BSJ North's Little Shop.
Oh, yeah.
But before that, I hadn't really seen a version of this show on stage ever. Wow. Obviously, I've seen the movie, and I've heard like countless songs and things like that. I've heard the new soundtrack for the new Broadway show. For me, I really enjoyed that you couldn't see the set. So for those of you who were able to see the show, you walk into the theater and the stage is black. There's 4 green lights, if I'm not mistaken.
I want to say that there were 2 different colors.
Oh, okay, maybe they were different colors.
Gonzalo?
Fact check, please. But yeah, so there was 4 beams of light, and then of course they had the green lights on the side that had like that vine feel, which I thought was beautiful. So that was designer. So that was like the ambiance of the show, walking in, and I thought it was different because usually with a Little Shop show, you come in and you see the set immediately because there's really not a need for set changes per se. They can be done, but like it's not like necessary. Yeah. So like the focal point is the flower shop. Mm-hmm. So usually when you walk in, that's what you see.
I thought it was beautiful, the fact that you couldn't see the set. And yeah. I wanted to see it as soon as we got there because I'd seen pictures online and I was like, that's different. I need to see what it looks like in person. And we got there and I was like, oh, let me see it. Let me see it.
But yeah, but I thought it was really cool. And then like once the show started, because if I'm being honest, like when I first got there, I thought the curtains were closed.
Oh, wow.
Or I thought like nothing was on stage because it was black. So I was like, okay, like, does it come on? Like, I was like, I was confused. But when the show started, you then see that it was just a screen, and then it lifts, and then the lights come on, and you see the shop. But one thing I do want to say, because we're talking about first impressions, is, where's the playbill? I do want to talk about the doo-wop girls, Crystal, Ronette, and Chiffon. I'm going to say their names, and I hope I say them correctly.
Their legal names.
Tessa Gonzalez, Hannah Genet, or Genet? I'm so sorry. And Ashley Sines. They're the ones that set the tone. So they're the ones that come straight out the gate, like, this is the show that you're about to see. And, like, it blew me away at how precise and how immaculate it was, because literally those harmonies, I felt like I was listening to a soundtrack that was professionally recorded. And that is hard to do. Like, that is hard to do. But I think going back to collaborating with the people that you're on stage with, that was the perfect example. Like, if I could go back and like record that and be like, this is what I'm talking about, that's what I would do.
Those girls were so good. So good. That's probably the best doo-wop girls I've seen. And that's because I've seen the show many, many times. Like, that's the best I've seen. Their harmonies were tight. They were you could tell that they had a chemistry.
Yeah.
And that they've been friends for a long time. Like, that's what I got.
Yeah.
Right? And damn, like, they really did it justice, those girls.
And I think for me, they're also really good examples of commitment. Because I doubt you did, but if you guys had messed up, I'm 100% sure that you would have messed up together on the same note, in the same key. Because literally, you guys were so connected that you could have sang the phone book and I would have believed that it was part of Little Shop. Because literally, like, I was so sold from the minute that you started singing.
Yeah.
And I just had to like say your names because it was stunning. Like, it was so wonderful to see them like throughout the show. And like, I honestly was looking forward to every time they came out.
Yeah, same.
Cause I mean, it became such a focal point in the show for me, which I really enjoyed.
The last thing I will say about the doo-wop girls is that this song, The Meek Shall Inherit, that's the hardest song to do in the show, in my opinion, because it's so random. It comes on the second act. I've never heard the song done well. That's the best I've heard the song. That was so fantastic. Those girls killed that song. And I was jamming out. Like, I'm sure you were looking at me. Like, I was so happy because I've been wanting to hear those harmonies in that song done beautifully, and they did it. And one thing that I do want to mention is that this was not a classical version of Little Shop, which I completely appreciate. It I've seen it done like very classic to the T, even with the big plant and everything, but they did something different in the show. They made it very dark, very modern. I loved it. I ate it up. And what they had was, instead of having that giant plant that somebody would be inside of, you know, busting their butts moving that thing because it's heavy. Shout out to PSJA who has that giant plant. And they lent it out to everyone in the freaking valley. But the fact that they did a person and different people for Audrey 2, I thought was very different. I liked it for the version that they did. I feel like the plant would have been really weird in that set. So I really appreciate the fact that they did a person. And he was fantastic. He did a really good job. His voice was phenomenal. His acting was on point. There was times that I lost his diction, but completely, like... But
I think he was so lost in the character for me, at least from my perspective, that I didn't really mind. Like, it literally... It was on brand, if I can say anything. But I did appreciate them also using a person for the plant, for the type of show that they were doing.
We gotta talk about this lighting, man. This who did the lighting again?
I don't know.
Little Gonzalo, you did so good. You did so good with the light designing in the show. Seriously, it's such a joy seeing you every time that we see you. You bring so much life into Robert Vela and into the theater community here. You did a fantastic job. Very modern, very precise to what you were selling with the show, with this modern take on Little Shop. Absolutely loved it. Every second of that lighting, I was like, it added it, and that's what lighting is supposed to be. It's supposed to add on to what the actors are doing, and it definitely did.
I think one thing that this show did too that I'm kind of missing from some of the other shows that we're seeing is the spotlight aspect.
Mm-hmm.
So like a lot of times with big ensemble shows, you're kind of like, okay, where am I supposed to look? You know?
Yeah.
And what I really enjoyed with this is that the lighting, not necessarily just one spotlight, but it was like dark, light.
Yeah.
You know? And I was like, okay, I'm here. Oh, now I'm here.
One more person before we move on to the last person we need to talk about. Mr. Kyler, we've been seeing you since Chicago?
Chicago, I think, was the first time we saw
His
him.
freshman year?
I don't know, so
Or
don't quote me.
sophomore? Okay.
It might have been his sophomore year.
But his growth has been incredible. He played the dentist, which I loved. The dentist is a very difficult character to play, and he put his own spin on it. He definitely put his own personality into it, and I loved it. But shout out to Tanner, who was the second dentist that I saw play. I loved his version of it, but Kyler really, really put his own spin into it, and I loved it. I can't say it.
For those of you who watch the show, you know what this means. But basically, there was a moment in the show where he rips open his dentist coat and it says, "I love mom," or "I love mommy." I don't know what it said, something like that. But it literally sent her like spiraling. It was just really great.
I thought it was so funny.
The one thing I will say about Kyler is that I did appreciate how tame he played the role, because with a character like the dentist, it's very, very easy to slip into like, I have to be like
Elvis.
Over the top
Yeah.
and like super like no, and I feel like he really did just enough that it was like oh, like I hate him, but like it wasn't like offensive, you know, like it was you laughed, you know, like, and it was a really hard role to take on, I think, when it comes to that, because you're the villain but also the comedic relief, so it's like, oh, like how do you kind of find the two together? But
I loved it.
You did it beautifully, and congratulations to you. So I don't know what it is about Robert Vela and female leads.
I know.
Because for those of you who watch our videos and you guys are like, you've seen a lot of our videos, you know that we reviewed a show that our friend Karina was in at Robert Vela. Chicago, and now she's like one of our best friends.
Yeah.
And she, I mean, when I saw her in Chicago, obviously we fell in love. Like we were just in awe of her.
With her family completely, honestly. Like if we want to go that far, like we fell in love with her family and her,
and so
not me crying.
And so honestly, the show was no different. I don't know what else to say like in regards to that, but like
the females were really strong in the show.
Delisha, if that's how you say your name, I hope I didn't butcher it. You were beautiful, girl. If you're watching this, I'm a huge fan.
I am too. We are somebody's parents.
Do you want to talk about it?
We can.
Okay. So, a little story.
Girl, don't feel bad.
So a little story. We went to go see the show on the last night. And we got to see most of the cast and shake their hands, tell them great show. And we got to see Delisha. And we shook her hand, told her that she did amazing, all these things.
Because she did.
She did. And she asked us if we were anybody's parents. And it kind of caught me off guard. So I was kind of like, no.
We just really like your show.
I was like, I don't know what to say.
But you also didn't see her in Hunchback, so I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. One, and it was dark outside, guys. Like I tell this story, and you guys probably think we were like in a well-lit room or something.
Yeah.
And we had masks on. So
and
like,
I mean, not everybody has to know or will know who we are, and that's fine. I mean, I'm not expecting everybody to know who we are.
I just thought it was super hilarious.
But it was so funny, girl. Like, we could not stop laughing.
We're still laughing about it now, and it's like, it's been like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
But anyway, overall, girl, you did such a great job. Like,
Fantastic.
I truly appreciated your take on the role, because I think what can happen is that a lot of times we feel the need to kind of portray the character a certain way because that's how it's always been portrayed.
Mm-hmm.
But I like that you didn't do that. And it's not to say that the people who do that aren't just as talented, but it's really nice to see like that take on it, because it's like, well, I mean, you know, like, yes, it's a character, but it's not a caricature, you know.
Mm-hmm. I appreciated
so
her too.
I really appreciated the take on this role, and it fits so well into the type of show that they were putting on.
Not just that, but I mean her voice, man. I cried my eyes out during Somewhere That's Green, and it takes a lot. I mean, I cry easily, don't get me wrong, but it takes a lot of emotion to get me to cry, and girl, you sold it. Like, I was in tears. Did you see me crying?
Yes. Usually, like, it'll happen, like, it's like, I'm like, oh my god, like, and she's like straight sobbing. But
yeah,
oh my god,
fantastic show. And
overall, yeah, Mr. Morales, if you're watching this video,
Hi.
we love you. The
you.
shows you put on are amazing.
We haven't seen him in a while, but
and we hope you're doing well.
Alrighty, everybody. Well, thank you so much for watching this video. It was so much fun talking about these shows.
Thank you so much for coming on this ride with us and adapting to this new season that we're putting out. We hope you enjoyed the videos. Next week, we will be talking about PSJ Southwest's Anonymous, Edinburg, Robert Vela's Baskerville, and last but not least, we will be talking about Edinburg High Schools in the Heights. I'm super excited. We're trying our best to get through these videos and be as quick as possible, but we love you guys so much. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you so much.
Bye. See you next week.
Next week, we will be talking about PSJ Southwest's Anonymous, Edinburg Vela.
They're taking the trash out.